Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back. Great to see you. And if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining me on the start of the week here. And we've got a lot to talk about in today's video from a very active storm system currently ongoing through the southern plains. That's going to pull northward and bring big time severe weather and snow potential. And then all of this is going to get wrapped up eastward into a big pocket of cool and cold air that will eventually lead to some big time snow totals. And I'll tell you who's going to see those big snow totals, potentially even snow outside of higher elevations. And I think this is the start of a pretty active pattern here to end the month of November. Now, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, in the second half of my junior year here, or at least about to start it. Again, I really do appreciate you joining me. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. It's a great way to stay up to date and hit that bell for the latest notifications. That means you'll be some of the first people to hear when I upload a video, and you'll get the latest and greatest data and analysis of that data right on the fly. Also, go ahead, like the video and comment and let me know where you're watching from. Now, one other final thing I'm going to briefly mention here before we do start the video. If you haven't already ordered your 2025 special GM weather calendar, go ahead and do so. This is the first bit of merch, I guess, if you want to call it that I am selling on the channel. And again, do not feel pressured to, but if that is something that you think you might enjoy, definitely do so. And it's a great way to support me and my education. All right, that's enough of me blabbering on. I'll also add the link for that is in the description, by the way. That's where you can find it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here because, again, I don't want to self-promote myself for the entire video. I'm sure you came here for the weather and not to hear all about my life. So here we go. Looking at satellite imagery, again, pretty active scene out there. Now, not super bright colors showing up on the map. So you might be thinking, all right, not a lot happening, but we've got a storm system here down into Texas and Oklahoma that is really getting ramped up here and getting its act together on this Monday, and will, will continue to bring, sorry, tongue-tied there, will continue to bring severe weather throughout the day today, as it did last night as well, through portions of Texas and Oklahoma, and a pretty big pocket of severe weather potential today from, again, Texas all the way up potentially into Kansas and Missouri, as we're going to have a very large warm sector. So that's the big storyline. Behind it, we have another push of cold air working into the Pacific Northwest, and eventually these two are going to work together and form one big upper level low, and that's when those snowfall chances are going to increase across portions of the eastern United States going into the middle and end of this week. And it's a pretty active look, even for potentially portions of the East Coast that could see a couple flakes fly. So we'll talk about that for sure. All right, current, what's happening out there? What's falling from the sky? What kind of watches, warnings, and advisories do we have? Well, again, a pretty active scene. We'll start up into the Northeast. We do have some showers working on through Maine and even down into portions of the Northeast from New Hampshire into Massachusetts and down through Connecticut, Rhode Island, and even Long Island. So definitely some beneficial rain. This is a place that we absolutely need it. Again, we've had big wildfire concerns out in this area, and luckily we're going to get a good amount of rain this week through that area, which will help. Through the southeast, not a whole lot happening. Some fog in spots this morning, some chilly spots out there as well, but nothing really to talk about in the severe weather department. Now, where we do have problems is out into the plains, and I'm going to briefly turn radar off so we can talk about the watches, warnings, and advisories. All these beige colors that you see out here into Illinois and then back into areas of Kansas City all the way back down into Texas. These are wind advisories. Again, this is a strong storm, folks. So we've got some pretty high winds gusting up around 40, 50 miles an hour at times into these regions due to that very strong pressure gradient. And then to add insult to injury, again, a lot of precipitation falling from the sky. Now, the only really chance of seeing snow out of this, at least right now, is down into the mountains of New Mexico, but that will change as this pulls northward into the northern Great Plains. But again, a whole lot of everything going on. Severe weather threat along the warm front and the cold front today, and then everywhere in between. So again, a big warm sector today for this storm to feed off of. Now out west, the threat shifts to snowfall and heavy snowfall in these higher elevations, winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings. Got all the fixins up here into the northern Rockies, even back into the Cascades, through the mountains of Washington, Oregon, and even all the way down into California. It's been a snowy past couple of days, and that's going to continue throughout the day today. All right, meteorology in minutes. Let's go ahead and break it down for you. Again, we've been talking about this big time severe weather threat today. Well, one of the reasons for it, and you know what, we're actually going to switch it up today because I show that map all the time. Let's go ahead and show you the 850 millibar map. So oftentimes, again, we like to break down what's happening in the upper levels, but sometimes the lower levels just above the surface is also very important. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's segment. And again, to be honest with you guys, I kind of make this up on the fly. I don't really plan what I'm going to talk about. I kind of just look at the map and think, all right, we'll talk about that. So this just came to me. We're going to talk about the low-level jet and the warm conveyor belt. And that's exactly what this is right here. And this is crucial for severe weather forecasting, but even sometimes winter weather forecasting and precipitation type. Basically what it is it's a belt of very strong southerly winds that is created by these low pressure systems. Again, this is about a kilometer and a half above the surface. We're talking winds of 70 to 80 knots. That's almost 90 miles an hour, not that far above our head. So this can create strong winds at the surface. Again, you get heavy rain that pulls that wind down. Also, this can lead to tornadogenesis. Often, this is a big time ingredient. Again, you get these very strong winds just above the surface. And as you have these tilted updrafts that pull upward, this helps to accelerate that upward motion and kind of lead to, again, strong storms with tornado potential. During the wintertime, though, and even severe weather, what's important about this is it pulls up warm Gulf air often, at least in this part of the world. And that can lead to instability for the summer months. It can also help pull kind of that warm air in the winter months, which can change your rain from, you can change your snow to ice or your ice to rain, depending on where you're at. And oftentimes here in the Carolinas, and really all over the place, but just as somebody who's born and raised in the Carolinas, or I guess raised, not born, but that's a whole side story. Either way, again, this can kind of boom or bust your snowfall potential. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. Again, this belt of very strong winds is our warm conveyor or our low-level jet. You'll hear it called multiple things, and you can see how that kind of aligns with the low pressure itself. Again, here it is, and it's right in front of the cold front that you get it. And again, that's what helps to pull all of this instability northward, these warm temperatures, this moisture. And again, can lead to big time severe weather. So that is your meteorology in minutes segment of the day. All right. So another thing we'll talk about, obviously, is what's happening in the plains today. Where's this storm going, and kind of what's after that. And it's all starting here at our mid-level height values. Again, we've got some lower heights right into here with one storm system, and then you'll notice this big pocket of lower heights back up into the Pacific Northwest and into the Northern Rockies. Again, these two are going to combine, but before they do, we're going to have to deal with that severe weather threat today, that heavy rainfall threat as well with this storm system, as all of this pulls northward and eventually kind of combines right over the northern plains. And it's at this point, Tuesday into Wednesday, that snowfall chances will increase. And we'll kind of go from a severe weather threat to a snow threat through North Dakota, Minnesota, and then eventually all of this is going to move eastbound and bring that very active weather into the eastern half of the country. And we'll talk about that as well. All right, before we get there, let's discuss that severe weather threat today. A slight risk up for Dallas, Waco, all the way up the I-35 corridor into Oklahoma City, including the threat of a couple tornadoes. But notice how big the overall threat is. We've got a marginal risk from Mobile, Alabama, all the way to Kansas City, Jefferson City, Topeka, Wichita, even St. Joseph, Missouri there in that threat. So again, a lot of folks under the gun for severe weather today. Even if it's not an off-the-chart kind of looking graph today, that threat does exist. And like I said, tornado threat is included here. Basically, this entire area has the chance of a tornado. So again, got to be weather aware today. And today's not the end of it. We'll do it all again tomorrow, although tomorrow and Wednesday, the threat becomes smaller. So you'll notice we have a marginal risk from Birmingham down to Meridian, Hattiesburg, Mobile, Pensacola. And again, this is kind of that second severe weather season and not a huge threat. Again, only a marginal risk, but we are going to run the risk of even a tornado or two tomorrow down along the Gulf Coast from Mobile to Pensacola, back even up north through the I-65 corridor into kind of the Evergreen area of Alabama, and then down towards Gulfport and Pascagoula. Could see a couple strong storms capable of producing a tornado. Day 3, look at this. The Carolinas even added in on the action. Charlotte, Raleigh, Florence, Columbia, up through the Triangle and Triad. Could see a couple strong to severe storms. Going to be a pretty feisty front moving through. It looks like a conditional threat right now. So again, could be one of those boom or bust setups. This would be Wednesday though, so we've got some time to monitor it, and we will definitely keep you up to date and talk about it more as we get closer. All All right, today's severe weather potential. Here we go through Texas and Oklahoma. We've got, again, this feisty line of storms working on through this morning, bringing tornado potential, strong wind potential, and it's going to continue through this afternoon. So I want you to note what we call the warm sector. Again, that's anywhere between our cold front and our warm front. Right into here is where we're going to have the highest chance of severe weather today. And again, that basically overlaps perfectly with the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now, a couple different types of severe weather. You could get severe weather along the cold front, where we have some enhanced spin. You can get severe weather along the warm front, where we also have enhanced spin. That's where we're probably going to have the highest tornado threat today, is along those regions. So kind of follow those throughout the afternoon. This gets us to about noon, 1 o'clock. Again, the storm pulling northward, the severe weather threat pulling up with it. And you'll even notice on the backside here, a couple of strong storms along kind of a secondary front here. This is probably a bit of a dry line, or maybe even a second shot of cool air that could produce some severe storms here through Oklahoma. Almost more of a cold core setup there into the afternoon and evening hours, and a lot of lift. In fact, right here, this is a place to watch for tornadoes today, as I'm kind of analyzing this with you. Right down here into Kansas, Oklahoma, during the afternoon hours. If I had to pick the place for a strong tornado, it's going to be there today, right into that cold core with plenty of helicity values, just meaning a lot of spin. You don't even need that much instability when you have that much spin. And then this pulls northward. Now, overnight tonight, going to get a bit of a re-flare up of this squall line from Missouri all the way back down into Louisiana. So need to watch out for that. Strong straight line winds, couple embedded tornadoes with that one. And then by the time we're going into the overnight, this is about midnight, the severe weather threat pulls out of Oklahoma, Texas, moves into Louisiana and Mississippi here, where we could still see some strong storms as we actually get a little bit of Gulf moisture influx from what's left of Sarah. If you remember Sarah, that tropical storm from a couple days ago, again, kind of going to combine a little bit here and bring some heavy rain overnight tonight into Louisiana, Mississippi, and then by the time we get up tomorrow morning, moving over into that threat area through Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and kind of surrounding areas for your Tuesday afternoon. But the Southern Plains, again, clearing out by that point. Northern Plains, again, really going to just be a rainfall threat. Now, I did mention severe weather into Kansas, maybe Missouri as well, but kind of Nebraska, Iowa northbound, just some good old-fashioned rain. This is this afternoon and into this evening as the sun is setting. Overnight tonight, heavy rain continues through the region. And then by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, this is when that cold air, sorry about that, this is when that cold air begins to phase with our storm system, and we begin to see that snow take over on kind of the western flank of our storm. It begins to occlude, and notice a heavy snow falling into North Dakota and even back into northern Minnesota. This is Tuesday afternoon. You'll notice that changeover. Again, time in the top right of your screen. Now, the time is in Eastern, so go ahead and subtract an hour or two depending on where you're at. But again, heavy snowfall, and this is overnight Tuesday into the early morning hours of Wednesday. This is going to accumulate pretty quickly here. In fact, we look at the latest snowfall totals from the National Weather Service. This is now through Wednesday morning. Isolated spots here, more than a foot of snow into northern North Dakota here, but widespread 3 to 5 inches. And again, I think it'll even snow after this a little bit, so this isn't accounting for all the snow that's going to fall, but you get the idea. North Dakota into northwestern Minnesota going to be the real winners here in the snowfall department, and definitely going to be kind of festive here, getting a pretty good snowstorm before Thanksgiving, which isn't out of the ordinary in this part of the country, but definitely something that's overdue. Now, this map is the probability of seeing at least 6 inches of snow. So this is half a foot of snow out of this system. Again, up here to the prairies of Canada, plenty of chance of that happening back through Saskatchewan and kind of surrounding areas out here. But for the United States, North Dakota going to have the highest chance of seeing that. In fact, a near probability on our blend of models that up here into the extreme north central part of the state, from Rugby up into kind of Rolette, and sorry, it's kind of hard to read. Some of these are kind of brightly colored. But either way, north central North Dakota going to have the highest chance of seeing that. But again, outside shot, maybe even some places in northwest Minnesota with a little bit of extra elevation could hit half a foot of snow. But if we bring this down to 3 inches of snow for the exact same time frame, the chance of seeing that, you'll notice even more people getting in on that action. Much of the state of North Dakota, much of northwestern Minnesota, and even portions of South Dakota here on the northeastern side of the state could see some snow of those numbers. So again, going to be a snowy Tuesday and into Wednesday for you folks up this way. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the eastern United States now, and let's see if we can keep this video under 30 minutes. I'd like to keep it in that range, but we'll see how long I talk and how much I yap. Here we go, though. This is the upper level height map, 500 millibar height anomalies. And you'll notice as I talked, here's that big pocket of cold air again. This is what's going to bring the snow to the Dakotas and Minnesota. Eventually, this is Wednesday afternoon, working through the Great Lakes and eventually parking itself really kind of over the Appalachia chain. And it's at this point that the forecast gets a little bit more difficult here. Now, we know we're going to have this pocket of cold air. We know it's going to hang around for a minute. But notice this is the GFS. Notice how you have little pieces spinning around this kind of enhanced areas of spin. And again, this lasts all the way through the weekend and then finally clears out about a week from now. And then guess what happens after that? Another storm system showing up. So again, an active month ahead, it looks like. But this is why the forecast gets difficult. We have a ton of spin with this upper level low. And it's creating a lot of vorticity. And what's happening is this overall general area of vorticity is getting elongated as it moves east here. Again, it's kind of spinning a lot, it's stretching a lot. And what you get is you get little embedded short waves in this, or pieces of energy that kind of break off. And what these can do is lead to enhanced lift and enhanced chances of precipitation. Now you get those precipitation chances over this big pocket of cold air, and you're going to get snow. And it makes it a very tough forecast because if I pull this back all the way, kind of the core of where the spin is. Again, it's kind of two areas of spin, but we're just now sampling this into the Pacific Northwest. And, it's kind of one of the limitations of current meteorology is we can only sample these things so much. In fact, the science is really there. I would argue it's more the data collection part that we struggle with. So again, knowing exactly what pieces of these are going to be strongest, where they're going to break off, is going to pay huge dividends in who sees the heaviest snow. Again, I mean, there's places that into the Northeast, we get a little piece that breaks off here, and you get a quick deformation band to kind of form, and you've got, 4 or 5 inches of snow in a place that maybe the models aren't really showing it all that much right now. So I say that just to tell you and caution you, what the models show currently is probably not going to be the end-all be-all, but it's an okay kind of, it's okay to look at the models for sure, but just expect some changes, I guess, is kind of the point I'm trying to hit home. All right, so actually, let me go back one more map. I'm sorry. I know I kind of teased you there with some actual cool stuff, but let me back this up, and I'll mention what we're going to probably see out of this is a pretty strong low pressure form. That is likely, and the reason for that is we've had this almost negatively tilted trough here, and I was showing you that jet streak the other day. Again, we've got a lot of lift into this region, and that is going to lead to low pressure to form and form quickly and likely occlude very quickly as well over this part of the country. And this first low pressure is likely going to lead to some snow for somebody. Now, then I think after that we get more areas of low pressure to form, but the latest NAM model does a pretty good job, and we're getting into mesoscale range finally. So, we're going to be able to kind of look at this a little bit more. So we'll back this up. This is just to show you again, Tuesday afternoon, there's all that stormy weather through the Ohio Valley down into the mid-south where we have severe weather potential, and our storm up into Minnesota. Now, it's overnight Tuesday here, again, moves into the southeast. That rain dies off a little bit, but then our storm begins to form. This is Wednesday morning. You'll notice a quick burst of precipitation here through Illinois, Indiana, and that quickly turns into low pressure at the surface, 1,000 millibars by 11 a.m., and then by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're talking 995 millibars. 992 by the evening, and by the time we get into the overnight, we're sub 990. So again, a very quickly strengthening storm undergoing bombogenesis. Now, it might not get quite the way there, but the rate of strengthening is equal to what we consider bombogenesis. And I had a comment about what that is. That just means that the pressure is falling at least a millibar an hour or 24 millibars in the span of a day. And that's what's happening here with this one. And what happens because of that in the upper levels is we get these bands of favorable areas for heavy snowfall on kind of one side of these low pressures. And that has to do with QG theory and a lot of stuff that honestly I'm not even going to study until, next semester or semester after. But either way, what that means for you and kind of what it matters, or why it matters, not what it matters, is somebody, again, is going to get a big band of snow. Now, the NAM shows this into northern Ohio. This is, again, overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Notice this big area of snowfall. And we've got heavy snow falling Thursday morning from northern Indiana through northern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and a very strong low pressure. So this snow's blowing around. It's falling heavily. You get the idea here. So, this is why the storm's important. We're going to see a lot of snow somewhere. Now, exactly where this happens is still up for debate. And I'll even mention in here Wednesday afternoon, this is when we could see that severe weather threat into the Carolinas as this front kind of moves on through. and brings some lift. So a little side tangent there, but we'll go ahead and move on to some other models now. Show you the GFS and then the European, and then we'll talk about snowfall totals, and I'll let you go. So the GFS, let me move this ahead in time to kind of where we picked off again. Or where we left off. Same thing as the NAM here, Wednesday morning, low pressure developing a little bit further north on the GFS. And again, that's going to matter because then what happens is our band of heavy snow on the south side of this low pressure along that deformation band is all the way up into Minnesota, or excuse me, up into northern Michigan rather, from the UP up into the northern mitten there. So that compared to what the NAM showed, heavy snow into heavily populated areas of Ohio and Pennsylvania, again, a different story, and we're pretty close at this point. So these are those little mesoscale features I was talking about that are really tough to predict. Again, somebody's going to get heavy snow. Who is it? Now, the next thing that the models are kind of hinting at is we get another low pressure to form here along the northeast coastline, and I think that this is a pretty reasonable expectation given the upper level divergence and our baroclinic zone at the surface. So again, I would buy into that, and because of that, the GFS, by the time we get to Thursday afternoon, we've got a 1-2 punch. Heavy snow over portions of Michigan with Storm 1, heavy northwest flow snow into the mountains of Virginia, West Virginia, and even maybe portions of western Maryland there. And then another storm forming along the northeast coastline. And by the time we get into overnight Thursday, we've got heavy snow falling into the northeast, into portions of Ohio, West Virginia. Again, it's kind of a mess to forecast here, but pockets of heavy snow, pockets of heavy rain at the same time. All of this continues overnight Thursday into our Friday afternoon, where it's a snowy, rainy mess depending on where you're at. Again, it depends on these precipitation rates. Is it going to be cold enough, or are we going to be dealing with 36 and rain? I think higher elevations, I would lock in snowfall. The middle range elevations and lower elevations, you could still see snow out of this. Again, it's a tough forecast to set, or excuse me, it's a tough setup to forecast. Again, I'm telling you that the caffeine's not kicked in yet today. It's going to be interesting. And then the GFS hangs us around all the way through the weekend. And then by the time it clears it out next week, check this out. Another storm moving on through. So definitely active. The European, same story on the general idea here. Low pressure forms quickly here Wednesday morning and into the afternoon. Again, bombs out closer to the NAM on the European here in location. Again, this is right over Lake Erie. That's about where the NAM had it. And because of that, it's just puking snow here into portions of western Pennsylvania into eastern Ohio, and then through the Alps from kind of West Virginia north on heavy snow falling with a setup like this. And then kind of like the GFS, redevelops this low a little bit, but the European tries to keep it one low, and it tries to phase, doesn't quite get there, and you really just get this big elongated area of low pressure, heavy snow on the south side of the low, heavy rain on the north side. And again, I know it sounds backwards, but it's just the way these setups work with these upper level cutoff lows. But again, this would be a big snowstorm for somebody in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia on the European model. And then again, you even get snow in the higher elevations of the Northeast. And then this finally clears out by the weekend outside of some lingering snow showers. And then again, the Europeans on board with another storm coming on down the pipeline. All right, a difference again in the models, same thing in the ensembles. The GFS Thursday afternoon has a 1-2 punch. One low over the Great Lakes, one off the northeast coastline. So look at that, and then I'll show you the European ensembles, and it's just a mess all over the place, folks. So again, I know you're going to ask me, is it going to snow in, this exact town in this exact state? And now some states and some towns I can tell you, yes, it will, but others, it's tough to know whenever we have this much uncertainty in the models. Again, somebody's going to get a lot of snow. I think somebody's going to get half a foot of snow out of the setup. Could that be in Ohio? Maybe. Could it be in Pennsylvania? Maybe. Could it be in West Virginia? Maybe. Could somebody even up further into the Northeast get a lot of snow, or up into northern Michigan? It could happen. It's just, again, we've got a couple days to go. We need the mesoscale models to really get into range while the global models still kind of fight it out. But again, still the signal for a big time snowfall event, and you can see that in our snowfall totals among our models. This is the European for snowfall, and I mean, again, now this is a 10-to-1 ratio, so you're not going to see 23 inches of snow in Cleveland, trust me. But you get the point. Heavy snow in western Pennsylvania into the mountains of West Virginia, even through much of the state of Ohio. We've got heavy snow up into the higher elevations of the Northeast, and then of course a ton of snow out west where the snow train never ends. The Canadian model, again, kind of a similar story, but we've even got snow down in the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, eastern Kentucky has some flakes flying, and then, even into Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, western Pennsylvania, up into the mountains of the Northeast. The GFS, again, GFS kind of has a 1-2 punch, so you get the low in the Northeast. That's heavy snow up into portions of western Mass, up into the Adirondacks, Catskills, the Green Mountains, and kind of surrounding areas. And then you get heavy snow even back into Michigan. And then, all the models kind of agreeing on heavy Appalachia snow into West Virginia, even down into the Boone area of North Carolina, Ohio getting in on some snowfall. The Icon model, again, you'll notice heavy snow into the mountains, maybe snow in Ohio. We're showing heavy snowfall totals here. And again, cut down the totals, so it's not going to fall in a 10-to-1 ratio like this. But again, look at the general locations here. Now, we throw all this together, and plus some I didn't even show you, we get the blended models. These are the most favored areas to get snow out of this. Again, the mountains of West Virginia, North Carolina, the mountains of the Northeast, Western Pennsylvania, and then even Western Michigan with some lake effect, maybe the state of Ohio down into the Cumberland Plateau and even into Eastern Kentucky could see some snow out of this setup. It's very possible, but some of these areas are going to get a lot more than this map shows, and some areas are going to get a lot less than this map shows. That's the nature of it, folks, unfortunately. Again, that's one of the beautiful things, and one of the reasons I'm studying it is an evolving science and one that we are still learning more about every day, and that's what makes it fun. All right, this is the NBM. This is the blended models, again, kind of in a different format. This is the chance of at least 2 inches of snow falling within a 72-hour period. Again, you'll notice back up here in Western Michigan, not high chances. These are in the teens and 20s, but definitely a chance we could see snow back up into that range. Even down here into Ohio, outside of the mountains, 25% chance of 2 inches of snow accumulating, and then the heavy areas of snow most likely down into North Carolina, where we're running a 50 to 75% chance of at least 2 inches accumulating in these higher elevations, and then a near certainty here into the highest terrains of West Virginia. And this is where I think we're really going to get it kind of into the Mill Creek area, back down through Summersville, so let's say Elkins, I believe, Beverly, again, kind of into a lot of these areas of West Virginia, and then up into the Northeast. Pretty high chance of a pretty good accumulation of snow into the higher terrains of the Adirondacks, the Catskills, again, the Green Mountains, and then even up into these mountains up into northern New Hampshire. So some folks going to get a lot of snow out of it. Who exactly sees the most? We'll see. Again, some people are going to get more than is forecasted. Some people are going to get significantly less than you're seeing on some of those models. And that'll be the fun of it. Now, what won't be fun is the comments I'll get telling me I was wrong and I never said that it wasn't going to snow and all this other stuff. But it's all right. I can handle it. It'll be okay. So temperature-wise, I will discuss this here. Again, it's going to be warm today, warm tomorrow in the east. Then Wednesday, here comes that big shot of cold air, and we're well below average through the rest of the work week, even into the weekend, before probably warming up again a little bit about a week from now. But after that, again, some of us could get in on another shot of cold air. The GFS ensembles here indicating a cold Thanksgiving, maybe even a stormy, snowy Thanksgiving for some of us. And we'll break that down more as we get closer to the event here. But there are signs, again, that we stay cool maybe even into the end of the month. So that could continue a snowy pattern, and we'll keep you updated on that as we get further ahead into time. Alrighty, folks, kept this one under 30 minutes, so give myself a round of applause and a pat on the back, and hopefully you can go out there and enjoy some more of your Monday. All right, have a great one. Stay safe out there. I'll see you all tomorrow.